Have you ever felt like a frog in the bottom of a well? Maybe first day of work in a new career, maybe the first time you go on a date. Perhaps the first day of university. For me, the first time I really felt like a frog at the bottom of a well was when I started learning Mandarin Chinese. I'm definitely not the first person to suggest that a language is kind of like an operating system for your meat computer. So it's not a perfect analogy, but I would say that English is kind of like Linux. If you want to be really customized and you want to go down to the nitty-gritty details, English is pretty good. It's got a lot of roots: Germanic roots, Nordic roots, Latin, Greek, French. Mandarin Chinese, on the other hand, is more like macOS. A bit more unified of a system, easy for your average Joe or average Lao Wang to use. And so, learning this second operating system, I realized it has some features that English doesn't have. And you know, when I was in my early 20s, I used to fancy myself as kind of a aware person. I was woke before anybody was saying woke. I thought that I was looking at the world from a larger frame of reference, and all these sheeple, they don't know what they're talking about. Until, of course, I learned Mandarin Chinese, and then I went, this must be what a frog at the bottom of a well feels like. So many of my fundamental assumptions about life in general, sometimes my own life, sometimes reality, were called into question. And the way they were called into question is kind of a weird way. It was just looking at some words that I already knew, but in Chinese. And I was like, I've seen this word a million times since I was a little kid. Now I'm looking at it in Chinese, and it's making me question everything I think about this word. So what's that about? So I asked myself, what are we actually doing when we say a word? The answer to that could be thought of as what we're doing is psychologically chunking. Now, I'll briefly explain to you what psychological chunking is, because it's been explained before, but just in case you've never heard of it before. Psychological chunking is where we take a bunch of unrelated information and wrap it into one conceptual framework that's easy to remember. So, have you ever gotten a text message and it says, you need to verify your identity. So you have to write in a number, and it's like a 4-digit number, like 8120. So you're in your text message app, and you're like, okay, 8120. Switching apps, 8120, 8120, okay, 8120. Got it. Identity confirmed. But what if the text message came in and it said 2018? Are you going to have to remind yourself, 2018, 2018? No. Because you already have a pre-made conceptual framework that this is a year. And so, as a result, it takes up less space in your short-term memory. But it's the same data. So that's kind of crazy. Now, a word, when you say a word, you're doing the same thing. You're chunking information all together in an easy-to-remember form. And the thing about it, though, is it can be way more complicated than a set of numbers. It could be just an object, or it could be a whole series of intellectual thought and philosophies, all chunked down into a little mouth sound. So it's pretty impressive. Now, the actual process that we go through when we're saying a word is that first we're perceiving the world, and we use our 5 senses for this. So already on step 1, perception, we should be feeling like frogs in the bottom of a well, because our senses, our sight, our hearing, and so forth, they are not perfect. We're not seeing everything there is to see. We're not hearing everything there is to hear. But nonetheless, they are a product of 350 million years of evolution. So they're not bad. They're not bad. But the thing that we can do that other animals can't do is we can abstract, which is chunking. We can take all this information and create out of it an iconic representation. So we look at the set of all of something, pull out a low resolution extraction from that, and it's like a picture. We can imagine. So after that comes the word. Let's just take a look at this in a more visual way. Gosh, look at all these people. But wait, they're not people. They're nothing like people. They're 2D. How do we know? How are we able to do it? That's crazy. Like, that's not, look at that. That's nothing like what a person looks like. The level of detail is not even close, right? But we're still somehow able to do this because we're able to see all these people over and over and over, abstract out of it an iconic representation that is low resolution. I mean, that's not even close to how detailed a person looks, but as a result of being able to do that, we can then think in pictures and quickly chunk information together. Does that look like a person to you? Yet it still works. That is low resolution, man. 2 legs, that's about it. So, people have 2 legs, that has 2 legs. Perfect. So what does it do for you, though? If we can chunk this many things together, it means that we can build off of our previous knowledge much faster. Now, Chinese has this intermediary step that I really like. I'm a huge fan of it, because normally it goes image and then word. But Chinese has this sub-chunk. Because I don't know if you know this, Chinese takes a little bit of a different approach to words than we do in the West. They use these cool things called characters. And the characters allow you to see instantly upon looking at a word what previous reality chunk you had made. And so, if we look at this character, wei. Oh, oops. If we look at this character, wei. If you actually break it down, the top part here, this part up top, it means to wrap something up or to contain within it. And then, of course, what's contained within it goes under. Well, this section here is the character for misfortune. If you are able to see something that contains misfortune, well, that's what dangerous things are. Don't cross that bridge. It contains a lot of misfortune. So it's pretty cool. So that means you can't just look at the letter G and have that much feeling with it, but you can do that in Chinese all the time. So when we are making a word, the best words are the ones that you can look at and go, that is a combination of previously made chunks. So let me give you an example of this. So somebody's learning English, and they learn the word play. And they very quickly get this. They're like, okay, I can imagine maybe a couple kids jumping around, maybe an animation of 2 kids jumping around with smiles on their face. Play, good. Iconic representation, done. Abstraction, done. Chunk, done. Ground, I've seen the ground, I'm seeing the ground right now. It's so easy to make that type of iconic representation. So, you learn playground. How easy is that to learn? It's good chunk building, right? So, almost all Chinese words function this way. They're usually made up of 2 characters. You put them together and you're combining the meaning. Unfortunately, most English words don't function this way. It's inconsistent. Linux, right? It's really complicated. So, but that's not even it, because Chinese words also use characters. So just like way dangerous before, you already have an even better understanding of what it means than you would looking at a word like playground. You see, words are kind of like a door. Because why does it even matter if you can chunk things quickly? So what? So you can chunk something together really quickly. You can quickly figure out the meaning. Well, if you imagine that a word is like a door, and it's saying, hey, behind this door, that whole set of human experiences and observations and conceptualizations and philosophy, here is a low-resolution idea, an advertisement for what's behind that door. Well, how much is that going to affect how you live your life? So I suppose I'm walking down, and I go, oh, aesthetics. No idea what that is. Move on. That happens all the time with English. But if I walk by and I go, 美学, the study of beauty, what's that? How much more interesting is that? How much more likely is it to arouse your curiosity? That's the key. So I would argue that Chinese is considerably better at giving you direction in life. You know, I thought chemistry was really boring when I was a kid. The idea of chemistry was like lame, boring science class. But if somebody had come up to me when I was a kid and say, hey, do you want to know about the study of change? 化学. I'd be like, whoa, study of change? That's cool. I bet the other kids in school won't make fun of me for that. The thing is, though, the real question this made me ask is, how many doors have I walked by in my life? Because English didn't do a good job of chunking. How many opportunities did I miss as a result of, you know, English just having a kind of crap advertising team? I'm going to give you two more examples of words in Chinese that are so profound they really just blew my mind. Because as I said before, a chunk could be as simple as taking 8120 and making it 2018. Simple. But take something like this. Now, this first character here, first of all, it's got a hand on the left, so the hand on the left indicates that this is going to be an action that you do with your hands in some way. Chinese does this all the time, it's great. It actually means to hug, but in this case, it's kind of like a metaphorical meaning of hug. Like you hug and then you hold it inside yourself. You're harboring it. What are you harboring? Resentment. Yeah, resentment. And you can see it's a feeling because it's got the heart there at the bottom. It means to complain. That's exactly what you're doing when you're complaining. You're harboring resentment. And it blew my mind because I was like, this is a whole self-help book in a word. Because it's changed the way I think about complaining. So imagine that you start complaining and you realize you started complaining. If you go, oh, I've started complaining, versus, oh, I've started harboring resentment. How much different does that feel to you? How much more are you going to self-analyze and go, yeah, you know, I don't want to harbor resentment too much. So that's pretty cool. Second example, 道德. So first of all, right off the bat, we have an idea that there's something to do with movement here. We've got the component here which indicates like a path or a road. And this character, Dao, it's the main component in Taoism, it's the main character in Taoism, and it means path or way. De means virtue, the way of virtue. So this actually means morality. Now, I'm embarrassed to say, I'm a 30-year-old man, and I've only recently come to understand that to be a good person, it is a proactive process. You have to take responsibility. You have to sacrifice your short-term pleasure for the people that you love and the people that you care about. It's a path. And every 8-year-old Chinese kid knows that because it's clear as day. It's right in front of you. It's a good advertisement. And this is why I was saying that learning Chinese could make you more humble. Because imagine that you're walking through that series of doors and you're looking at all of these things, you know, 美学,化学. And then you're going, well, these things all are very clearly profound, deep, and full of meaning. And I didn't open loads of those doors. Because life's short, you only have so many doors you can open. But if you're aware of what you didn't open, it's harder to be arrogant. How are you going to be arrogant when you know I didn't open all these doors that are very clearly, amazingly deep and significant in their meaning? Because the Chinese people I've met are not just paying lip service to humility. They really are. And I think it's for this reason. You see, the frog at the bottom of the well, the infamous 井底之蛙, the reason he wants to stay there, and the reason he likes it, is because he can know everything in that well. He can know all the things there are to know. But I've been in China for 6 years now. I moved across the world and I set up shop in a brand new country. And I'm not going to go into all the misconceptions people in the West have about China, but suffice to say they are a lot. And it's high time for us to realize that the people of China are not just worthy of our attention, but they might just have a system of viewing the world that we need to learn from. And the best part is you guys are willing to share. Chinese people are willing to share. and they're willing to listen. Because like I said, they're humble. One thing I've absolutely learned is that these are our brothers and sisters here in China. Why? I've moved here, I moved into an entirely different country, and I have been treated like family. And I'm going to continue to repay that kindness and acceptance that I've consistently received with the admiration, respect, and love that it deserves. 志同道合的兄弟姐妹. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Your speaking Chinese is pretty good. 对不对？他的话语说的真。